The fallout over the CDC's new cruise guidance continues. We'll tell you what Cruise Critic has to say about it. Well, seemingly as soon as Carnival says we're pulling everything out of Australia, the Australian government seems to want to come to the table on restarting cruising. Plus, Princess Cruise Line has some brand new routes on the West Coast, including to Mexico, Hawaii, and Southern California. And if you've cruised to Nassau recently, chances are you noticed the port is a huge mess. Well, vendors are taking note and so are cruise passengers. All this coming up on Midships. Hey, welcome to the Midships YouTube channel. I'm your Captain Corey, and thanks so much for stopping by the channel today. Well, once again, welcome on board the Carnival Magic. We spent the day in Amber Cove in the Dominican Republic, and I ran into some pretty cool content creators that I want to introduce to you. Take it away, Corey, from Amber Cove. Hey, Midships family, we are in, where are we today? Amber Cove, and I ran into some other content creators. We have two channels here. They're going to introduce themselves. Let's start with the Cruise Dorks.
We're the Cruise Dorks, and we do absolutely nothing.
We cruise, but just for fun, not for content.
Yeah.
Perfect. And our other creators?
Adventures ahead.
Yes, and we are on we're on our honeymoon right now, but we're making them into cruise vlogs for our channel as well.
Yeah,
so
just like to have fun.
yes.
All right, well, there you have it. There's two new channels that you should subscribe to here if you're looking for something to watch on YouTube. Also, subscribe to her channel. I don't know what it is, but she's ready to go.
I'll find out. That's awesome.
So if you're looking for some additional cruise content, why don't you go ahead and follow the Cruise Dorks or Adventures Ahead. They're absolutely fantastic people. I loved having a chance to talk with them in the port. You could see we had a really fun and candid moment there with that lady just walking right through our shot right at the end. Who knew? You're on a cruise, you're probably not paying attention. Hey, she doesn't even know she's famous. Now it's time to get into today's cruise news, and why don't we go ahead and start with the big one, with this new guidance coming out of the CDC. Yesterday we reported that CLIA, the Cruise Line International Association, was pretty peeved off once they got to reading the new guidance coming from the CDC, as it was basically a major contradiction of all the science and all the facts that we know right now. Well, we've had a little bit of time for the dust to settle. Let's get Cruise Critic's take on the matter. By Aaron Saunders. Unmerited and unnecessary. Cruise industry reacts to CDC's new voluntary guidance. Cruise lines and industry officials are reacting to the new voluntary regulations set forward late Wednesday evening by the US CDC, which signaled it still considers cruising a high-risk activity despite having the most stringent protocols of any segment of the US-based travel industry. The new guidance, which includes the creation of 3 new categories of vaccinated cruises, along with testing, reporting, and isolation requirements that extend far beyond anything required on land by the CDC or any local health agencies, has drawn the ire of cruise industry officials and cruise operators who have committed to working with the CDC on the safe resumption of cruising for the past 2 years. First through the no-sail order, then through the conditional sailing order, which the agency recently retired in mid-January. What was expected to be a soft transition into guidance similar to that from the conditional sailing order has morphed into what some are calling heavy-handed guidance that has surprised many industry watchers, myself included. And we have a quote from the Director of Communications at CLIA. They say, "Our first read is that the voluntary program is far more confusing to cruise lines and customers than even the previous guidelines, at a time when restrictions are being reduced everywhere else as cases drop. All of this seems unmerited and unnecessary for an industry that's already one of the most highly regulated and has continued to be so even after the expiration of the conditional sailing order on January 15th. And the CDC continues to tighten its grip on the cruise industry as they've doubled down on the warning against taking a cruise right now, despite the fact that in the travel industry, cruising is the only one in the US to require vaccination of nearly everybody on board. CLIA's representative went on to say, it's inexplicable why cruising would continue to be categorized as a level 4 travel health notice, which in theory will discourage people from cruising, even if they're up to date on their COVID vaccines. This warning discounts the importance of what the CDC has otherwise always promoted as the single most important thing for public health and safety, the vaccination. Analysis conducted by Finnish-based PBI Research Institute showed hospitalizations on cruise ships were 80 times lower than that on land in the US alone at the height of the Omicron surge. Go ahead, let that sink in, all of y'all out there at cruiselawnews.com and all of those other places that continually hate on cruising and say how unsafe they are. Hey, look at that. We got facts and figures to back up the fact that we've been saying cruising is the safest way to travel. Between December 30th of last year and January 12th of this year, only 5 cruise passengers were hospitalized out of more than 416,000 passengers who cruised, equivalent to 34 per 100,000 cases of COVID-19. During the same period, the U.S. saw 269,000 hospitalizations on land, according to data provided by PBI and CLIA. The rate of on-land hospitalizations during the same period was 2,786 per 1,000 cases. That's a lot more than 34, I'll tell you that. So how are cruise lines responding to the new guidance from the CDC? For their part, cruise lines are largely staying silent on the new voluntary program. So far, only one cruise operator, Norwegian Cruise Line Holdings, the parent company of NCL, Oceania, and Regent Seven Seas, has committed to joining with the CDC in their voluntary program. Good luck to you guys. The CDC's guidance had not yet been released when Norwegian announced their participation. Since the announcement, NCL Holdings had said it's evaluating the current guidance. Well, maybe they do see the light at the end of the tunnel. This sounds like a trap to me. So it sounds like many cruise operators, Norwegian Cruise Line Holdings included, are looking to reevaluate their stance on whether or not they really want to jump in with the CDC on this voluntary program. Now our next bit of cruise news is going to take us all the way to Australia. There's really good news for cruisers down under. From Sky News Australia, cruise industry to restart ahead of the international border reopening. An agreement has been reached to restart the cruise industry in Australia ahead of the reopening of the international borders on February 21st. East Coast states have joined forces with key government agencies to shape a plan to resuscitate the popular form of travel. International cruise ships capable of carrying 100 or more passengers have been banned from Australian waters since the pandemic began in March of 2020. So there you go, we might actually have our first concrete date to when Australians might finally be able to cruise again. Now we're going to bring the cruise news back here to the US, over to the West Coast. It's time to talk about Princess Cruises. But before we do, I want to remind you, all the articles referenced in today's episode are linked in the description below. While you're down there, at the very top of my description, there's a link to the Midships Instagram account. I'd really encourage you to follow it. I've posted some fantastic content from Amber Cove, Half Moon Cay, all of my previous cruises, things I don't post here on my main channel. Go ahead and search for me. It's just Midships Cruise. Also, while you're down there, at the very top, there's a link to my Amazon influencer store. There you can find all of the cool things I take with me on every single cruise. Things like this little pocket video camera. This thing is amazing. It's stabilized. I can move it any which way, and it makes my videos look absolutely fantastic. And the best part is, just clicking on those links down there does help support this channel and my work just a little bit. Guys, please help me out. Keep me being able to book these cruises. All right, thanks so much. Now let's get back into the cruise news because Princess, they're doing something new out on the West Coast. From TravelPulse.com by Theresa Norton. Princess plans a summer of Mexico, Hawaii, and California. Princess Cruises announced their first ever summer season of cruises to Mexico, Hawaii, as well as the California coast, round trip from the port of Los Angeles. Beginning June 25th, the Sapphire Princess will operate 16 cruises from 4 to 16 days in length, including a 5-day getaway for the 4th of July. The cruises go on sale on February 16th, and the Sapphire Princess just happens to be one of the medallion class ships. That means you get that cool little wearable tracelet that helps you do things on the ship like open your door, order room service, or keep track of loved ones. Okay, so if you've ever cruised to the Caribbean, chances are you've been to Nassau, Bahamas. Well, at least every single cruise. And if you've been there recently, you know the port is a wreck. It's all torn up. There's fencing everywhere. You gotta walk like a half a mile out of your way just to get into the cruise port. Well, the vendors there, they're a little ticked off because of this. Cruise passengers don't seem to love it either. It's noisy, it's dusty, it's confusing. Let's learn more about what's going on in Nassau, Bahamas. From enews.com by Natario McKenzie. Holding out for better times. Nassau Port Chief defends cruise passengers rerouting amid vendor concerns. And here we have a picture of some of the construction there in Nassau. It looks like that's a little bit cleaned up from what I've seen there recently. Remember, I was there about 6 days ago. The Chief Executive Officer of Nassau Cruise Port said yesterday that ongoing construction at the port has required the occasional shifting of passenger flows to support safe and efficient construction. Vendors operating at the cruise port continue to express concern over the fate of their businesses, which they say have come to a virtual standstill over the past 7 days because of the construction. According to a communication obtained by Eyewitness News, this website, tourist traffic has been halted since last week, Thursday, when the usual exit for cruise passengers moved to a different location. But the port CEO doubled down by saying that we're working on a one-of-a-kind waterfront development. It's currently underway at the port and will be instrumental in bringing downtown Nassau back to life. The article goes on to say that post-pandemic, there's some good news for the Bahamas as they're rebounding ahead of many other countries. The return of ships has been critical to the start of economic recovery for the stakeholders in Nassau. You know, as I read through that article, I realized I was probably there on that very first day they rerouted us way down the pier for the exit. I thought it was kind of weird when I walked out and I was literally almost to Senior Frogs, which if you've been there before, you know that's a little bit of a walk from the exit of the cruise terminal. If you made it this far into today's episode, why haven't you subscribed to the channel yet? I put out new cruise content every single day to help you for your next cruise. And in fact, I'm working on a tour of the Carnival Magic right now. I already filmed it. Thanks so much for stopping by the channel today. And until tomorrow, we'll see ya on the Midships.
La 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 la